what I want to talk about is do kind of a little mini life course, right? So, three things that kind of, gave you the courage to start your own business. This is, I think, it's the American dream, and a lot of people are thinking more and more about wanting to start their own business, whether it's a side gig or a full time gig or a side gig that turns into a full time gig. So, talk a little bit about, a mini life course. What I'd like you to focus on, I want you to kind of share what you want, but based on something you talked about is like earlier, kind of coming from the heart, right? And so it tells me you kind of are building a heart centered business, and I think that's what's needed in today's world. And so, how have you, three ways that you would encourage other people to tap into their courage to build their business? Number one.
Yeah. um, I will get there. I will promise that. So, but I think it's important to say what was happening in my life at that time, because I think it's what really resonates with why I say start from the heart, right? So here's this world 4 years ago, and I'm at home. My wife is a nurse. She's at home with our kids. I have three kids now, but at the time I had two kids. They're identical twin boys, and my mother-in-law is living with us, and pandemic hits. And so, the world, like you said, changed.
Yeah.
And as I look back on it, the pandemic was awful in so many ways. But one way, I think it really reset a lot of people's focus on life and health.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a great experience at my previous firm. But I felt like because I worked in a certain industry type, I was working quite a bit. And the commute went from your bedroom to your makeshift home office. And I just felt like there were so many months there where I just hadn't really spent time with my family. And it was such a confusing time.
Yeah.
So when I decided to resign from that company, it wasn't with the intent of starting a company. It was with the intent to really have presence equity with my family.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I was employable. I felt like I had, a skill set that people valued. And I felt like, as long as I was operating with the morality of doing the right thing, it would be okay. It was the first time in my life I ever made a decision that didn't have a plan associated with it. So
Yeah.
call it reckless, especially with two kids at home during a pandemic, but felt like it was right. And my wife,
It was the time to do it. Yeah.
fully supported it. And, time's a thief, right? You just only get so much of it. And so when I resigned, and here comes lesson number one, or fact number one was, again, I keep going back to why are you doing what you're doing? And during those during the first year, I would say I was much like I had a friend tell me recently, it sounds like you were a kite dancing in a tornado. And I said, yeah, it kind of was. I knew the string was attached. I had a great foundation at home. My wife was such a great support system, but we were just all flapping around, just waiting for the tornado to pass.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just working through that steep learning curve of getting the foundation in place to then, like you said, this ability to take over market share and go and really reinvent something that had been around for such a long time. And I actually had a lot of clarity on that.
Yeah.
So I made the early decision to have that vision and focus to say, I'm going to set this up so that I can grow, not stay stagnant.
Good.
And that was a big win for me.
I like how you talk about, you were very conscious in your decision flow. And there's a piece of, you talk about family equity, which I love that. The pandemic was horrible on so many fronts, but for my wife and I, our kids, the time that we had to get, it was pretty great. It was pretty great. We loved it. And so, what I want to extract is you made a very conscious decision, right? It wasn't, they may say kite in the wind, blah, blah, but you made a very conscious decision. And I think when you do that and you do something that's in alignment, this is my 2 cents. I find this happens to me when you're really in alignment and you're conscious about it, the universe then starts to kind of provide when you're in alignment. Yeah.
And I think everything you said is spot on. And the other part of it is with that conscious decision and alignment of what and why you're doing what you're doing is also in the background, you do need to have this sense of open honesty with yourself. So, I tell entrepreneurs all the time, and I'm not this 80-year-old monk that has all this wise, knowledge here, but I say, look, the one thing you can always be is honest with yourself. Don't tell yourself you've won the business. Don't tell yourself you've accomplished what you accomplish if you're so early on. If you have these big ambitions, every day is day one. Every day is week one. So go in with the mentality that you're always aiming to provide value, and not in the sense of paranoia, but you always want to keep that little bit of an edge. And I think we do a really good job with that here.
Yeah, it's great. All right, good. Number 2.
Oh gosh. So during the the life lessons, I think that's the segue into number 2, which is, and I think it goes back to having the champions in the room with you, but being honest with yourself. If you have a business plan and if you thought something was going to work the way it was going to work, everything from looking at your revenue forecast to hiring people, always be honest. Don't tell yourself it's something and it's something completely else, because that just separates you from where you're trying to go. And then when you try to course correct, it might be too late. So the honesty, I think, is so, so important on a daily basis.
Good. I love it. Be real. Yeah, absolutely. Number 3.
Empathy. There's such, I grew up an athlete, right? And it was like, if you want to get stronger faster, you stress your muscles, you go and you work on your weaknesses, and then you grow. But, in this world professionally, and, you being a business coach, you probably see this so often, is that you think, all right, I'm going to put all this effort in, and then I'm going to get this expected return or result. But in entrepreneurship, you could do everything right, everything. And the decision maker just decides to go a different route, and you can get discouraged and down on yourself. But if you have empathy and understand that you controlled what you can control, you took advantage of every opportunity, you were prepared, just didn't go my way, you got to just let it go and move on, but learn from it. So treating yourself with empathy, I think, is a soft skill that is oftentimes lost.
Yeah. And letting stuff go. You got to just let it go and move on. Take the lesson, move on. Yeah. No, I agree.